I now call Stephen Kerr.
I'd like to begin by congratulating John Swinney not only on bringing the motion to the Chamber for debate, but also on his speech, which I could agree with. And I thought it was very interesting to hear Richard Leonard make that revelation known to the Chamber, that what motivates John Swinney today is to be on the back benches to attack the Tories. So that does make this motion even more remarkable. So I pay tribute to him for organising the event last night and also wish to give belated apologies for my absence. Katherine Stewart-Murray, the Duchess of Atholl, stands as a figure of rare courage and principle. Her legacy is etched not only in her groundbreaking political milestones, which have been referenced in the speeches we've heard, but in the unwavering stance she took against the tide of popular opinion within her own party. And I think that Donald Cameron was quite right when he identified the tension, the fundamental tension that sometimes did exist between Scottish Unionist members of Parliament and the Conservative Party. But it's her commitment to her convictions at such a steep price, her seat in Parliament, that I think draws my admiration. And that actually outstrips the constraints of time. In 1923, she engraved her name in history, becoming, as we've heard, Scotland's first female Member of Parliament. She didn't rely on quotas or all-women shortlists. It was on the basis of sheer force of personality, her dedication, hard work and prowess, a testament to her talent. The 1930s were difficult times for the world and Scotland. We've heard all about that. There was support for totalitarianism around the world, and it was manifest in the United Kingdom. Perhaps we should approach the subject of viewing that period of history from the point of view that the people involved at that time may not have known the full extent of the horrors that were to be unleashed on the world by the forces of fascism and communism, and yet we must learn from those mistakes. It's absolutely right to say, as a couple of speakers have said, that the British establishment had somewhat nuanced views towards fascism and Nazism. The SNP itself has an interesting, colourful period of its history where leading figures within its ranks were known to have sympathies for fascism and indeed for Hitler. But Katherine Stewart-Murray saw through the forces of totalitarianism. She knew by instinct and by principle that she was against them. And she was a vocal critic of regimes like Stalin's Soviet Union, abhorring the very notion of a state dictating the private lives of its citizens. Her belief in individual freedoms and the right to self-determination was unwavering and manifested itself in vocal condemnation, for example, of the Italian invasion of Ethiopia. As has been mentioned, in 1937, she went to Spain with other parliamentarians from the House of Commons. She then registered her open dissent against the non-intervention policies of the then British government in the Spanish Civil War, and that led her to chair the National Joint Committee for Spanish Relief. In her book, referenced earlier by Richard Leonard, Searchlight on Spain, a bestseller, was also a bold critique of the conflict, and it flew in the face of the Conservative Party's then prevailing sentiments and drew considerable opposition from the leadership of the party. That's what led eventually to, sadly, her demise politically. She was no stranger to conflict with the Conservative Party. Her resignations over the India Bill, her opposition to the government's domestic policies in 1935, 1938, her opposition to the policy of appeasement against Nazi Germany, all these highlight her unyielding commitment to her beliefs. Her unwavering stance against prevailing party lines led, as has been mentioned, to her eventual ousting. She resigned. There was an orchestrated campaign against her before she resigned, and then there was an orchestrated campaign to unseat her when she stood as an independent in the by-election that's been referenced. But her political life, in conclusion, speaks volumes. Her message transcends historical context. The truth is, in our Parliament, in many a Parliament, the weight of party machines and whips at times stifles authentic debate. And as we commemorate a century since the election of Katherine Stewart-Murray, Duchess of Atholl, I think the singular lesson, certainly that I take to heart, is there is an imperative that we as individual parliamentarians stand firm for what we believe in and have as a right as individuals to believe in, even if it means diverging from the prevailing consensus within this chamber, within popular opinion, within establishments, and even within our parties.